It is 1,000 degrees outside, but it's still a beautiful sunny day. It makes me want to go do something active, but just the thought of shooting a basketball or heck, just going for a stroll just seems not fun in this sweltering heat. Well, time to boot up the Sega Saturn, I guess. I've been in a video game sports mood for quite some time now. It's finally time to scratch that itch. Since I've started exploring the Sega Saturn, I figured I'd kill two birds with one stone. Play some sports while seeing what the console has to offer in terms of said genre. After discussing with a few friends which sport I should explore for this very video, I went with baseball. The goal for me was to find a game to play on my off time, for fun. Something to briefly obsess over and get good at. I want to try and find other good sports games on the console eventually as well, but those will probably not be videos unless this one is received well. This is the first CD-ROM fossil sports video since, I think the last one was a baseball game about 5 years ago. Good lord. Anyway, I did find a baseball game that I'm definitely going to continue to play beyond this video. But before I show it to you, first, I do want to highlight some of the interesting titles I've come across along the way. Without further ado, let's play ball. Gekitotsu Koushien is a Japanese high school baseball simulation. Are there any high school sports games out there in the US? I don't think there is. The only thing I could find is one being actively developed called Varsity, which is American football. This makes the Koushien franchise that much more intriguing. The first game released on Famicom, and the last one released on the PlayStation 2. Interestingly, one of the games got a translation called League Series Baseball 2, which was only released in PAL regions, which kind of perplexes me. Is baseball even remotely big in the PAL regions? Whatever. Koushien is a tournament in Japan that is a really, really big deal. There's a documentary about the 100th iteration of it. I haven't watched it yet, but I've read good things. The game itself is very difficult to navigate, as it is very text-heavy. So if you don't know Japanese, well, half the game is closed off. There's a whole management side to the gameplay where your team manager informs you of all the various things that need to be done, even giving you choices of how you wish to spend the day, As for the gameplay itself, well, One thing is for certain, it's insanely atmospheric. In exhibition mode, you play in a big tournament stadium, but at the start of the season mode, you're playing in a classic high school setting. No stands in the outfield, no roaring crowd, just the sounds of baseball. But man, the gameplay itself is a bit rough. I could barely make contact with the ball. When I did, it rarely left the infield. It's a curious game with little information found online, not something I could see myself binging anytime soon, but I am intrigued by its mere existence. It makes me want to check out the final release of the game to see how it ended. I am very curious about this game though, so if anybody knows anything about this series and how it plays, or if I'm doing something wrong, or was this game good? Is this something that's remembered? I guess that's what I want to know. But for now, on to the next game. Bottom of the Ninth is a Konami game, and I didn't stick with it too long. I mean, just look at this UI and graphics. The bat looks short and fat. The pitcher and batter's portraits stay on the screen at all times. The wind, the score, the view from the mound, it's all a little too big, leading to a cluttered, gross view. Looking up the Nintendo 64 version on YouTube, everything seems a bit more cleaned up, but when it comes to the Saturn, I'd give this one a hard pass. Not even really sure why I'm bringing it up, as there is a much better Konami baseball game on the Saturn. Jikkyō Powerful Pro Yaku S is part of a very popular and beloved Power Pros series. Don't let the cutesy appearance fool you. Power Pros is a very fun and detailed baseball game, and there's a huge community behind it. The only downside being the fact that the entire thing is in Japanese. But with the power of Google Translate or mashing the buttons till the game starts, you can make it to an exhibition game fairly easily and begin to absolutely get dumpstered by the AI. It's a fast-paced game with an orchestra of announcers, cheers, and familiar baseball sounds. Power Pros has a ton of releases spanning a variety of consoles. I'm not an expert of the franchise, so I can't say how good the Saturn versions are, but I can say I had a ton of fun getting my butt kicked. But again, since it's all in Japanese, I didn't go too far down the rabbit hole of features and game modes. I will return one day, though, as first impressions were incredible. Speaking of first impressions, when I saw the simple title of 3D Baseball, I was expecting something borderline shovelware quality, then boom! Crystal Dynamics. You know, the people behind Tomb Raider, Gex, and like Legacy of Kain. This game was also released on PS1 and would be the only baseball title by Crystal Dynamics. Heck, I think this is the only sports game by them as well. The character models are smooth, the batters have unique stances. It's honestly impressive considering the expectations I went in with. The gameplay seems very basic, but the DNA of a baseball game is definitely there. But believe me, there is a much better 3D baseball game on the system. But before we talk about that one, let's look at Frank Thomas Big Hurt Baseball. This game released on tons of platforms, including PC. The game is doing that graphic style where it's like digitized actors, or at least I think that's what's happening. Batting and pitching are all very simple, although the lack of a strike zone can make things a little difficult. It seemed alright, but even back at release it didn't get good reviews. It was considered outdated even for its time. I don't know. I think it seems fine, but I probably will never go back to it unless I feel like checking out the SNES version, because I do own a SNES, I just haven't made a SNES review yet. Maybe one day. And now it's time for the main event. The baseball game on Saturn that I will most certainly continue playing.
The wind could play a role in today's game. We're about ready to play ball.
World Series Baseball 98 is a super cozy game. Booting it up in a dark room late at night and playing through 9 innings of very, very fun baseball is the kind of experience I was looking for. It's the closest I feel to what modern baseball games would become. It feels like a televised broadcast. Like, of course, this is Saturn, so the animations and announcer lines are repeated at a much higher frequency, and, you know, the graphics aren't, mind-blowing today, but everything is here. Introducing the pitcher, the batters, there's even a 7th inning stretch with a bit of karaoke. The pace feels correct. It's not a sprint like Power Pros, and it's not as slow as, say, baseball for Game Boy. Jesus, why was that the first comparison that came to my brain? There's tons of unique batting stances. All the stadiums are represented, and all the teams and players are here. There's a similar amount of information on the screen like bottom of the ninth, but it's clean and away from the action. Sega Sports outdid themselves with this one. I mean, look how awesome this home run is portrayed.
That's got potential. Larkin. It's a home run.
So starting with batting, you have a cursor where you can follow where the pitch is landing. If the ball has movement, say it's a slider, the ball locator will move before it crosses the strike zone. You can choose to manually aim your bat or try to guess which quadrant of the strike zone it will land. If you guess right, your batter will lock onto the ball and all you got to do is hit it. If you guess wrong, you'll have a very small window to correct your aim. Pitching is similar in its simplicity. Each pitcher has his arsenal of pitches, which is displayed on the screen. You can select the pitch by pressing that direction on the D-pad. Only issues, you have to remember what these pitches are. The only way to know what these pitches are is on the roster screen or in the manual, but once in game, you'll just have to guess. The hardest part of this game is getting the AI to swing at unhittable pitches. It's really hard to get the AI to go for a ball. They tend to only swing at strikes. Have a lot more success with causing a little infield hit and throw them out at first rather than getting strikeouts. Of course, the second hardest part is actually hitting the ball. But like most baseball games, that just requires a bit of practice since it's all timing based. There is a season mode, or you can jump straight to playoffs. There isn't much to either mode in terms of management. It's just choosing who will be playing in each game and swapping out players who are on a cold streak. It's just good, simple baseball, man. The same game series was also in Japan under the title Greatest 9. The last in the series, Pro Yaku Greatest 9 Summer Action, is the one I'm choosing to highlight mainly due to that awesome cover art. It plays the exact same way. The only difference is that it's not the MLB, but the NPB. And if you played the other game, World Series 98, you already know the controls, so this is a very fun game to play just to, hear the Japanese announcers instead of the familiar American ones, and they play music during the game too, instead of it being dead silent like in the American version.
センター前に弾き返した。
3番
ノーアウトランナー一塁二塁。長打が出れば面白いぞ。
背番号1
流した。切れました。ファウル。デッドボール。
So both these games are honestly great picks in my opinion. There are a metric buttload of baseball games out there, and there are definitely ones that play better than this. But if you're like me and you're currently just wanting to vibe out to some Saturn, World Series 98 or Greatest 9 98 is the best baseball game in my opinion on the console from my limited exploration. I'm going to play it. I'm going to have a great time. I'm going to try to have a winning season. We'll see if I have a winning record at the end of the season. I don't care if I don't make it to playoffs or go far into playoffs. I just want to have a good record. And then when I'm done with it, I will move on to check for like another sports game on the console in my free time. If you enjoyed this video, let me know, and I'll consider doing a video like this again on whatever sport I decide. It'd probably be football or like golf, but until then, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the next video because it won't be sports. Until then, I'm gonna go play some baseball.